Swinging a drive. Right field and deep. Back goes Aquino. It's got a chance. Gone. Get out the tape measure. Long gone. Fly the W!
Cubs fans, it's time to fly the W with Dustin Rhodes and Paul Crawly Gene.
You're listening to the Fly the W and watching the Fly the W podcast. It's episode 26. It's season number 4. Cubs stun Skenes and the Pirates. Wait a minute. What? Don't forget to listen, download, subscribe. Most importantly, review the podcast. Follow on all the socials. I'm at Mullyhaw on X.
And you can follow me at Crawly's Cubs on X, Blue Sky, and TikTok, and Crawly's Clubhouse on Facebook, Instagram, Threads, and YouTube's where you're watching this. And you can email us at crawlysclubhouse@gmail.com.
All right, Crawly. I know that I am not the writer of all of this. I write a little bit. You write most of this. The Cubs stun Skenes and the Pirates. Are you drinking the same Kool-Aid as my friend David Haw, who acted like basically the Cubs should just genuflect and get on the way, take the bus back to the Pittsburgh airport and fly themselves north of the Cheddar Curtain and hang out in Milwaukee? I mean, oh no, Paul Skenes, what will we do?
So Paul Skenes is clearly one of the best pitchers in baseball.
Clearly,
he is the reigning rookie of the year. He's a really good pitcher. And what you and I both talked about last time we were on here is you better win the first 2 so you don't have to worry about the third, right? Like if we would have won today and swept the series, we would have all been ha, 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 ha. Don't tell me, Dustin, I know you were watching this one as an early start. Don't tell me you weren't nervous after they were down 2-0.
Perfect for my schedule, by the way. Perfect. Almost perfect. Like a 120 is really perfect. I do teach in the afternoon after. So, but I did have Pat and Ron in my pocket and everything was cool. But yeah, when they were down 2-0, but again, it was only 2-0, right? And
right,
Colin Ray was having a really good afternoon. Was I nervous? Sure, I was nervous. I was still ticked off and miffed about how things went down in game 2, and we're going to get to that in a minute. But sometimes events like what happened in game 2, which we're going to get to in a minute, kind of take away from your either excitedness or your ticked offness about the outcome of a sporting event that Crawly, quite honestly, I thought should have been paused last night.
Yeah, and I here's what I'm going to say is that when you take a look at everything that happened, though, I'm not the type of guy that looks at every individual game. I kind of look at trends. And one of the trends that we saw in the Philly series, I want to say in the game they won, they were 4 for 22 with runners in scoring position. On that Saturday, it was a disaster against Jesus Luzardo. Sunday, only could score 1 run, had to go extra innings. They came out gangbusters on the first game, but the second game was more of the same offensively. So you're telling me with the Cubs offense, and again, teams go through slumps. The 2016 team went through a bad slump before the All-Star break. The best teams go through slumps in a baseball season. But you're telling me if your offense is slumping, if your best hitter is slumping badly, and you're facing one of the best pitchers, you're feeling hunky-dory? I'm not genuflecting to nobody, but I'm just telling you, it didn't look good.
Yeah, it was. You were a little nervous, but I mean, here's the thing: right off the bat in that game, and I know we're kind of going ass backwards, but that's okay. It's a live podcast. It's a live thing. This is what just happened. This is what's right, fresh in the front of my mind. So, I mean, Ian Happ hit the first pitch of the game, right, for a single.
Right.
So he wasn't going to be untouchable. His stuff wasn't that magical. And I just think that was a good thing. So it kept everybody engaged. Like, he's not a machine. He's a man. And I can hit this man. That's my point.
Ian Happ could hit Sandy Koufax as long as it was in PNC Park. The guy's unbelievable in Pittsburgh.
Yeah,
so.
The Pirates should pay him. The Pirates should pay him like $1 billion, and he could just go there.
Back up the Brinks truck. But I got to tell you, Dustin, the one thing that really interested me that we talked about before game 1, which was a Shota Imanaga versus Andrew Haney start. We had a little lineup shakeup, which we kept kind of wondering, when is this going to happen? When is this going to happen? It was Dansby Swanson, who was ice cold for a good 3 weeks here. He got moved down, and Carson Kelly, the guy you signed to be your backup catcher, was your cleanup hitter. I mean, Dustin, that was shocking to me. That to me, this kind of shows Craig Counsell is working this year. He's not waiting anymore.
charged. That's what it says to me, right? There's been so many things in the past that there was manipulation from the front office on how exactly the lineups were going to look. That was something that might have driven a divide back in the day between, Theo and Jed and, the former World Series winning skipper, Joe Madden, right? That they were getting a little too hands-on with the lineups on a day-to-day basis. So yeah, I think Craig's in charge. I think he's got a fully charged cell phone and a subscription to the Odyssey app, because he seems to be doing things that we mentioned in the morning and then doing that to the lineup. We were calling for that.
Well, looking at it right now, I mean, it was really just impressive. But the one thing is that the Cubs do hit lefties. This is from Marquee and how they ranked versus lefties. They were third in batting average, second in on-base percentage, and second in slugging, and third in home runs against lefties. And those numbers just went up after this game. Top of the fourth, little Cubs 2-out rally, Seiya doubles, and then cleanup hitter Carson Kelly jacks a home run, put the Cubs up 2-0. Offense wasn't done. Seventh inning, Ian Happ doubled and scored on a Kyle Tucker single. And then Seiya Suzuki hit another 2-run blast. The Cubs' third 2-run homer in this game. Dansby would hit a solo shot in the eighth. And in the ninth, Seiya triple and scored on a Carson Kelly single. The offense scored 9 runs on 13 hits, then hit for a team cycle, Dustin. 4 home runs, and for the first time since July 3rd, 2013, so 12 years ago, not one of the Cubs hitters struck out. Just amazing.
Pretty amazing. That's a pretty amazing statistic.
Now, not only were the Cubs hitting the ball, the defense looked great. Bottom of the fifth, 1 out. Tommy Pham shoots one down the line. Third baseman John Birdie robs him of extra base hits with a beautiful diving catch. The next 2 batters singled, but that catch kept a run off the board. Bottom 6, Andrew McCutchen doubles. Joey Bart walks, but with 2 outs, Michael Busch robs Tommy Pham of another extra base hit with a nice catch on a ball down the first base line. And the other thing about Busch, again, we've talked about this, just done a great job of picking balls out of the dirt. And here, I love watching PCA. He makes every play in the outfield look so much easier than it really is. We are starting to get spoiled.
You're right.
Now, that wasn't all fun and games here on Tuesday night. We knew that Shota had dominated the Pirates in a small sample size, but that he also struggled a bit lately. And he looked good the first 4 innings, but ran into trouble in the 5th. He got the first 2 outs, but gave up 2 singles and had to face the dangerous O'Neill Cruz. Cruz walked on a terrible call by home plate umpire Charlie Ramos. If you're looking at this one right here, that was pitch number 7 right there. Ooh. That he called a ball. And so that was ridiculous. That should have been the inning right there. And the umpires Tuesday and today, Dustin, on Thursday were just awful. Makes me drool for the challenge system. I want it so badly. Just absolutely unreal.
I love that you say that, though. You drool for the challenge system.
Cannot wait for it. But the scare for the Cubs fans comes in the bottom of the 6th. Shota gives up a leadoff double. Out comes Counsell, the trainer, and the translator. Shota is we don't know what's going on. He is out of the game. You could tell it was something with the leg. Luckily, we found out about an inning or 2 later on the broadcast that it was leg cramps. But for Cub fans, a very scary moment. Daniel Palencia came into the game with a runner at second, no outs, and did a great job stranding that runner. Caleb Thielbar pitched a scoreless inning, and newly called up Tom Cosgrove pitched 2 scoreless innings and made a nifty little wedge gem. Congrats to the JV Pen. But for the MVPs and the Billy Goats of this game, MVP Seiya Suzuki, 3 for 4 with 3 RBIs. He was a single short of the cycle. Speaking of cycles, the last guy to do it, Carson Kelly, 3 for 5 with 3 RBIs. Shota looked much better, pitching 5 scoreless innings with 1 walk and 3 Ks. I couldn't really find a GOAT. There was no one I was really upset about in this game.
The umpire?
The umpire, yeah, that's the GOAT. Awful, just bad.
All right, very good, very good. So that was game number 1 of this series. Let's now move over to game number 2, Crawly.
Yeah, we're rocking. Okay, the offense is back after that little blip in Philly, but, everything we said about how great game 1 was the opposite in game 2. They were just flat, and that's how it looked to me the entire game, right?
Well, let's talk about that for a minute. I don't disagree, but we were talking about this off the air with Mully and Haw, and then on the air with the audience. That game eerily, I was with Pat and Ron quite a bit for these games, driving, got a lot of stuff going on. It eerily reminded me of like COVID. And what I mean by that is there was Pat and Ron may as well have been in a basement somewhere. There was no life behind them. Pat and Ron were great. Zach was great. They were great as usual, but there was just zero ambiance. And then what there was, you felt like you were literally, had the one fan that was at that game was mic'd up. Like you could hear their private conversation.
Yeah, and it's a shame because it's such a beautiful ballpark.
Oh, it's beautiful. Gosh.
And I think about the tradition of Pirates baseball when you think about Clemente and some of those teams and some of the great players that have come through there. And it's just a shame with that organization. And yeah, maybe that had something to do with it, but everything just to me looked flat. The hitting, the pitching,
Really
the defense,
flat. Yep. Mm-hmm.
Everything just looked fat. I mean, Matt Boyd was okay versus Carmen Majinski, but he didn't look crisp to me. And so first inning, O'Neill Cruz doubled on the first pitch he saw, but Boyd got Brian Reynolds to strike out, but then a passed ball on Carson Kelly got Cruz to third. Boyd struck out Andrew McCutchen for the second out. Joey Bart drew a walk, but then Key Brian Hayes hit a bloop single to put the Pirates up 1-0. Gorski struck out to end the inning, but had that pass ball not happened, Cruz would have been at third and he had not scored. And Carson Kelly's been great. We can't ask much more of Carson Kelly. Steve Scher said, if you would have told me on April 29th, Carson Kelly would be our cleanup pillar, I thought something went terribly wrong in April. Right. He's been great, but that was just bad that game. He whiffed on that.
Yep.
PC amazing is all I got to say. More trouble in the fourth for Boyd. Leadoff double for Joey Bart. Brian Hayes has an infield single and the runner could not advance. Matt Gorski hit a single and the bases are loaded, no outs. Boyd strikes out Tommy Pham, who was just getting booed mercilessly, which I love by both Pittsburgh and Cub fans. But then Jared Chiriolo hits one 306 to dead center, and you just assume that, he's going to tag up and easily score. PCA loads up, throws home. Boyd didn't think it would be close. He didn't slide. He was originally called out. Unfortunately, the call was challenged, and he just made it in. Pirates up 2-0, but what a throw
he
by
should have been
PCA.
out just because he didn't slide, right? And because of the throw. You combined his not sliding and the awesome throw by PCA. The effort, just the effort involved. And since it was that close and he was called out, they should have left him out, in my opinion. They should have left him out.
That throw from center field to home plate was clocked at 95.8 miles per hour. That's the second fastest.
Some people were upset that he didn't. Some people were upset that he didn't go to third. Right.
Right. I mean, he literally. It was so close. It was so close, and so just that's a cannon. I mean, I have not seen a throw like that since Andre Dawson. I'm trying to think of another guy that had an arm like that in the outfield that I can remember. Andre Dawson's the only thing I can come up with. The only other run that Boyd would give up. That was the only other run he would give up. He went 5 innings, gave up 2 runs on 6 hits, 3 walks, and 6 Ks. That should have been good enough to win the game. But the offense didn't do much against starter Carmen Majinski. Top of the third, 2 on, 1 out. Kyle Tucker, who had a brutal trip to Pittsburgh, hit it into an inning-ending double play. Top of the fourth, 2 on, 2 out. PCA hits one, 103 miles per hour off the bat, but right at Brian Reynolds. The Cubs finally got on the board in the 5th. Dansby Swanson led off with a single. John Birdie walk. Majinski was done. Ryan Baroque came into the game, and Ian Happ, Mr. Pittsburgh, singled. Swanson scored. Birdie moves to second to make it a 2-1 game. A wild pitch would move the runners up 90 feet. Runners at second and third, no out for Kyle Tucker. He works a 3-0 count. He swings and grounds out to first. That was the first out, but now the game's tied at 2, but you wanted a little bit more from Tucker there. Happ would score on a wild pitch. Cubs would take a 3-2 lead. Again, you thought that would beat the Pirates, but they would not score again. The Cubs were 1 for 6 with runners in scoring position, left 6 men on base. They only had 1 extra base hit. That was a John Birdie double. So not much there. And things, Dustin, fell apart 7th inning. Brad Keller was first out of the pen in the 6th. He worked a scoreless inning, comes out in the 7th, got the first out. But then as Isaiah Kinner-Falefa reaches on an error by John Birdie. Now, Birdie's done a decent job at third. I mean, he's not a Gold Glover, but that continues, Dustin, to be the weakest defensive link for this Cubs team.
Just awful. I mean, just horrifically bad.
Now, Caleb Thielbar comes in and strikes out O'Neill Cruz, but Brian Reynolds singles to put runners at first and second, 2 outs. Old man Andrew McCutchen comes to the plate. Thielbar gets in front of him 0-2, but McCutchen works the count to 3-2. He hits one where the shortstop usually plays. Thielbar puts his hand up, but then pulls it down so he wouldn't deflect the ball, thinking his defender was behind him. But Swanson was more to the third base side. Nico was more towards where the second base bag was. Both of them slide to get the ball. And Swanson looked like his wife, Mallory, looked like a slide tackle, and the ball deflected off his foot and shoots right into short right field. Nobody's near the ball. Both runners score. And now the Cubs trail 4-3. And that's how that one would end, Dustin.
What was worse, Crawly, in your opinion? The birdie boot or the Swanson boot?
Ah, boy. The birdie one was a play that should have easily been made, in my opinion. With Swanson, he's usually good at that, and it just literally hit him in the worst spot and ricocheted. Like I've not seen a ball ricochet like that off someone's foot in that way.
If he just stops the ball, right? Just because I don't think he's got a play, right? Even if he gets to the ball, I don't think he has a play. So if he just stops the ball, who knows how things turn out.
He may have tried to just stop the ball, but the fact is it hit him in the foot as he was sliding to try to stop the ball.
I don't think he had an opportunity to actually put his hand on the ball and then throw somebody out.
No, but again, he didn't block it. He didn't do anything. And so that was it. As far as MVP and GOATs, Ian Happ stays hot. He was 2 for 4 with the run. Nico was 2 for 4. And how about Dansby? That bat woke up in the 8th spot, 3 for 4. I thought Drew Pomerantz looked good in one inning of work, but the GOATs, Kyle Tucker, Seiya Suzuki, Michael Busch, were a combined 0 for 11. Suzuki struck out 3 times, Busch struck out twice, and Tucker hit into a double play with 2 on and hit a dribbler to first with runners at second and third. And so he left a lot of runners in scoring position. And obviously John Birdie and Dansby Swanson with the errors that really cost the Cubs the game there.
Absolutely. All right. We've talked about it a little bit as we started the podcast, Crawly, but let's get a deeper dive on game number 3, which just wrapped up a few hours ago.
Yeah, both teams had interesting things happen in the first inning. Ian Happ led off the game with a single. He now owns the longest on-base streak in PNC history, having reached safely in each of his last 34 games, dating back to April 10th, 2021, Dustin.
Pretty good.
Unbelievable. So he added 3 more today with that hit plus another single and a double. But for the Pirates, Brian Reynolds hits a solo home run off Colin Ray to give the Buccos an early 1-0 lead. We mentioned in our preview of the series that Brian Reynolds was 7 for 12 against Colin Ray. In the third inning, 1 out, Colin Ray threw what should have been strike 3 to Henry Davis, but home plate umpire Lance Barrett, who must have had some money on the Pirates. I swear to God, he calls this pitch right here, ball number 6 right here, which is clearly a strike. He calls that a ball. And so now Davis gets to get, he gets on base, and, all the calls seem to go against the Cubs. Dustin Kelly would get ejected barking at Lance Barrett, and that was huge because O'Neal Cruz doubled the score and to score Davis. Luckily, though, O'Neal Cruz thought it should have been a home run. He didn't run it out. It should have been a triple. He was a double, and Ray was able to limit the damage. After walking Reynolds, he got McCutchen to fly out and Emmanuel Valdez to pop out. But it was a great start for Ray as he got the quality start, 6 innings, 2 runs, 4 hits, 2 walks, and 2 Ks.
That was a quality start. I agree with that one.
You like that one. Okay. And the offense, after it looked awful the night before, it didn't look good early on. Top of the third, 1 out. Skenes walks Happ, Tucker, and Suzuki to load the bases. But for some reason, Dustin, this is with 1 out, he walks the bases loaded for Michael Busch. He swings at the first pitch and grounds into an ending double play to end the threat.
And this is the thing. If that game would have gone differently, that play is going to be talked about ad nauseum.
I mean, you got to sit there and take a couple pitches. If he has no control at this point. But it changed quickly in the 5th. Dansby Swanson, 5th inning, he leads off with a home run. Newly called up Nicky Lopez grounds out. Ian Happ struck out, but slumping Kyle Tucker hit a home run to tie it, and Seiya Suzuki homered for back-to-back jacks. And just like that, the Cubs had a 3-2 lead. Before today, Dustin, everyone says, oh, why are you going to genuflect in front of Paul Skenes? He had never allowed, Dustin, 3 home runs in a game, much less 1 inning. Skenes would not come out in the 6th. He gave up 3 runs on 5 hits and 4 walks. But Dustin, he was mowing the Cubs down until that inning. He didn't give up any runs. He only gave up 2 hits. So, it's the Cubs got a 2-run homer from Seiya in the 7th to make it a 5-2 game. You think, okay, cruise control, but it's never easy. Bottom of the 8th, Porter Hodge comes into the game. He gives up a leadoff single. O'Neill cruises up. He hits one towards Dansby Swanson, who drops the ball E6. And so that's back-to-back games with an error for the Cubs defense. Wild pitch by Porter Hodge put runners at 2nd and 3rd. Brian Reynolds hits a ground out to score Davis to make it to 5-3 game, but Hodge was able to get out of the inning without any more damage. I really like that about Porter Hodge. He can strike out a lot of batters. I feel like he really has wicked stuff.
He's got swing and miss stuff, but I got to be honest, I was getting nervous.
Yes.
I was getting nervous.
But the Cubs would add 3 in the 9th on a 2-run double by Happ and an RBI by Michael Busch. And the Cubs take this one 8-3 to take the series. MVP, Ray, a quality start. Happ 3 for 9 with an RBI. Suzuki 2 for 4 with 3 RBIs. Dansby 2 for 4 with an RBI. As far as the Goats, the Billy Goats, Horner, PCA, and Amaya combined 0 for 16. Porter Hodge's 8th inning we talked about. He gave up a single. He had a wild pitch and a walk, which got us nervous, but he was able to get out of it.
This is the Fly the W podcast. It is season 4, episode number 26. The Cubs stun Skenes and the Pirates. Don't forget to listen, download, review, and subscribe to the Fly the W podcast. Leave us a 5-star review. Email us at Crawly's Clubhouse, gmail.com. And don't forget, you can watch us on Crawly's Clubhouse on the YouTube page. All right, Crawly. So the Cubs win the series. The Brewers took a loss to the White Sox this afternoon. We're not able to complete the sweep. And yesterday, I know the Reds lost both ends of a doubleheader to our least favorite team, the Cardinals.
Well, I didn't have the Brewers loss in just yet.
Okay. Well,
so that'll change things up a little bit. We will add that loss to the total. So if we do a little bit math, Dustin, and like you said, public school educated here, the Cubs are in first place, 19-13. So always love to see the Cubs in third place. The Reds are 17-15 in second place, 2 games back of the Cubs. Milwaukee, with that loss to the White Sox, they are 16-16. They are 3 games back. The Cardinals 14-18, 5 games back. In Pittsburgh, 12-20. They are 7 games back. But, it was the Cubs. This was the first series they played. It's hard to believe we're in May and they just completed their first series against a division opponent. But
that is amazing to me.
Mind-blowing to me. But that is something they needed to do, and I'm glad we're able to sit here and talk about a win rather than a Cubs loss.
Absolutely. All right, Crawly, I referenced it earlier, and now we got to get into this a bit. A fan on Wednesday night fell from the stands, a really scary moment.
Yeah, and I was watching that on Marquee, the game, and I just want to give kudos to Jim Deshay and Alex Cohen, who's been subbing in for a sick Bugshiambi. But I was obviously not at the game, but all I know is that it's when you see players react like that, Dustin.
Ooh.
The way that they were
kneeling down, they were gathered together. They showed a picture of one at Nikki Lopez doing the sign of the cross, right? I mean, that's scary stuff.
I mean, when you see players shaken up like that, it's difficult. This happened when the Pirates were making their comeback and that ball kicked into center field. The only thing, Dustin, that I can think about is like the only equivalent that I can remember the last 10 years, say maybe. I remember when Albert Almora hit a foul ball and it hit a little kid.
Yeah.
And they were all extremely upset about it, and no one more than Almora. And some people feel like he never kind of came back from that. Right. It just shook him so much. But you saw those players shook. You could tell by the way that Alex and JD were talking that something serious had happened. And so there's video out there. I chose not to put any more pictures or any video out of there, just out of respect for the family.
Right.
But that was, if you see the video, Dustin, my stomach turned. This guy literally flipped about 3 times before hitting it looked like head first. He is in critical condition. The Pirates put a statement out talking about the situation. And I had friends that were at the game, and some had pictures, some had video that, they didn't put out there either. But what I was told is that guy, fell. He didn't jump. It was a fall. He was jumping up, excited about, what was going on in the game, and that he was with his girlfriend with a woman, a buddy, and another woman. And then that buddy, after the guy fell, went down around really quick and jumped onto the field to try to help him out. And then that's when obviously the trainers and the EMTs all came running out to try to, give support. But like I said, it's just such a scary movement at a game. And I where I sit in my season tickets, I'm in the very first row of the upper deck. And people ask me, have you ever been scared? Or everything happened. One time, Dustin, swear to God, I almost did fall into the first tier row. That was 2008 opening day. And that was the first game of Kosuke Fukudome, and the Cubs were down, I think, by 2 or 3 runs. Eric Gagne's on the mound, and Fukudome hits the home run in the bottom of the 9th. And I had a buddy of mine, really tall, big guy, and I jumped into his arms, and he wasn't expecting it, and he caught me but kind of leaned, and it was like a very holy crap moment that we both kind of looked at each other like, okay, maybe we don't do that one again. But
yeah, be careful.
Yeah, that was definitely something that I sit there and I look at and I say to myself, man, that was, I just, like I said, it's just so scary that you see that and something like that happened. And so.
Well, all you can say is that we were hoping for the best, and it will be interesting to see what the fallout is, meaning what type of precautions they will now put in to hopefully not have something like that happen again. I mean, do you put up netting? Do you put up a basket? Do you put up glass like a almost like an NHL game? What do you do?
That's why they put the baskets up at Wrigley. We joke around, the baskets give it, the baskets take it away, but it was drunk fans in the 60s dancing on top of that and then just falling over. So they put the basket in. That's why we got it. And so, Ricky De Hoyo said, happy to catch you guys live. Big fan. So glad to have Ricky on the show here. But yeah, they're going to have to do something and we're going to find out more details. We don't want to get over our skis on this one, but we just hope he's okay. And we'll see what the fallout will be.
Absolutely. That's exactly the right way to do it. All right. So we've got some injury stuff to go over, some roster updates, and then maybe get ahead of the Brewers and the Cubs in Milwaukee this weekend.
Yeah, we talked a little bit about Shota Imanaga. Here's what Shota said after the game through his translator.
Yeah, so after the 5th, or a little bit during the 5th too, I felt like that feeling of like a cramp that's about to come. And so, I talked to the pitching coach. I felt like going into the 6th, and then the 6th inning, my legs completely cramped. So, before, it turns into a cramp in different areas of the body where it all connects, I think it was the right call to call it there. Yeah, I've experienced a couple times in the past where, with high humidity and, when my pitching's, it's going okay, I've had it in the past. Yeah, I don't think there'll be any issue for the next start. I've had it in the past where I have that feeling of, coming along, and I kind of push past it, and, that affects me negatively. So I feel like today, I was able to stop it a few steps before anything, and it would become a bigger issue. And so, I think it took some courage to say, I should come out of the game, but I'm glad I did.
Couple things in there, Dustin. Number one, he said that this has happened before.
Right. So nothing new. So he knew his body, right? He knew what he was feeling and what it was.
Right. And so I think that's important. We didn't see it all of last year, and all we saw was him coming out of the game. And literally that's the one that would just be devastating for this Cubs team. And so the other thing, he's not going to miss a start. So he will be starting, he said, on Sunday in Milwaukee. But he also said, he's had it before and tried to work through it, and that's caused more problems, and that it was brave of him to kind of tell to get somebody out there and leave the game rather than risk injury. Sometimes guys want to be the hero, and that's all respectful and stuff like that. But imagine if Shota really would have done some damage to that hamstring. Imagine if something would have happened and he would have been out for a month or two.
I don't know that the Cubs could have afforded that. So I'm glad that he, sucked it up and knew when to say when.
And I think more players really need that attitude. It's not letting the team down. You let the team down more if you end up getting injured and not being able to continue on and play for your team. We also had some roster moves, as we talked about a little bit here. The Cubs selected right-handed pitcher Chris Flexen, option AAA Iowa left-handed pitcher Tom Cosgrove, easy come, easy go. And they transferred right-handed pitcher Javier Assad to the 60-day IL. That way you don't have to DFA anyone by adding them on there. And so when I take a look at this, Dustin, it's interesting when we talk about Chris Flexen because we saw him on the south side, right?
Well, Crawly, if you would have told me that Chris Flexen and Nicky Lopez would be on the Cubs, I would expect the Cubs record to be exactly the opposite of what it is right now.
Right. But if you look at his career, when you look at the career, Chris Flexen did have some success in Seattle, 21-22. And then again, he played for a bad White Sox team last year, which makes it harder when you don't have a team that can be good defensively. But he had a couple struggles in 2023 in Seattle. He had a 7.73 ERA. He went to Colorado. I don't know why they thought that would help. He had a 6.27 ERA and then a 4.95 ERA in the springtime. But this was a move made, Dustin, for pitching depth, right? And you can see that the Cubs do need that pitching depth. Jesse Rogers was the first to report it, but he's had a 1.16 ERA in 5 starts in AAA. But the big thing and the important thing to know is that he had to be added to the major league roster when he was added. He had it in his contract. Otherwise, he would have been allowed to become a free agent. So if the Cubs didn't call him up, then he would have been a free agent and any team could have grabbed him. And so the thing to kind of keep in mind here is that the Cubs did some work, and this is some audio from Chris Flexen that I thought was interesting about how the Cubs approached him.
Into the arm slot adjustment, how do you feel like that really helped find the consistency?
Yeah, I came in spring training, and that was something after doing some labs. That was one of the most glaring things that they pointed out for me, and I think we had a goal of trying to get to a certain arm degree, and I think we're pretty close, if not quite there, and still trying to fine-tune it, but I think I'm in a good spot.
What stood out to you about the pitching department and working with Tommy specifically?
Yeah, and immediately when I came in, it was like all hands on deck. I think they were phenomenal, going through the labs and everything, and Zombro, Tommy, Casey, all those guys, and big shout out to the pitching coaches in AAA too, Tony and Andrew Betcher. Those guys endlessly looked at video, looked at data, looked at everything, and looked at old video and trying to, help me get back to where I wanted to be ultimately.
All right. So, the arm slot is the thing, Dustin. And again, you and I both kind of rolled our eyes when they signed Colin Ray in the offseason, right?
Right.
Like,
when they did not get it at all. Yeah.
This is a dumb signing. What a waste. We didn't know about Matt Boyd. Kind of rolled our eye. We're really rolling the dice with this guy, right? Maybe they're seeing something, and maybe Flexen will be one of those stories that can hopefully help the Cubs as they're struggling with injuries. And speaking of struggling, another guy that could help, Tyson Miller, he is doing really good. He's going to appear in his 5th rehab outing for AAA Iowa on April 29th. And so that was recently. He's only allowed 3 hits over 4 1/3 innings. So, when he comes up, that's just going to be another weapon that Craig Counsell can go and use to help fortify this bullpen, which, again, when you talk about the weaknesses here of this team, you'd like to have a couple more bullpen arms and you'd like to have an everyday third baseman. But if Chris Flexen's a guy, if Tyson Miller can do what he did last year, all of a sudden that bullpen becomes a lot deeper.
Oh, way deeper, right? Yeah, much deeper. Great point by you. Great point by you, Crawly. As usual, I will say. All right, Crawly, it's time to get into this Brewers series. The Brewers and the Cubs, first time around, and you're listening to the Fly the W podcast. Listen, download, review, subscribe, 5-star reviews. Email Crawly and I, Crawly's Clubhouse, gmail.com, and you're watching us, or you can watch us on the Crawly's Clubhouse YouTube page. All right, Crawly, the Cubs and Brewers north of the Cheddar Curtain.
Yes, sir. Last season, the Brewers finished with a record of 93-69 and clinched the NL Central on September 18th when the Cubs lost to the Athletics. It was their second consecutive division title in their third and fourth seasons. Unfortunately for the Brewers, fortunately for Cub fans, they ran into the Miracle Mets Part 2 last offseason. In the deciding third game of the wild card series, the Brewers were up 2-0 in the bottom of the ninth. One out and runner at the corners. Pete Alonso hit a 3-run blast off Devin Williams, and the Mets would stun Milwaukee 3-2, once again coming up short in the postseason. But the Brewers dominated the regular season against the Cubs, going 8-5 against the Northsiders. So, Dustin, the Brewers never really do much in the offseason. It's just whatever they do just seems to work somehow. Whatever free agent, whatever minor leaguer, whatever guy they got in their system, it always seems to work. So when you take a look at the key additions, Nestor Cortez, they got him in a trade for Devin Williams, with the Yankees, and then he gets hurt right away. Tyler Alexander's a swing man, and Caleb Durbin's an infielder. But, I mean, would you be impressed with that offseason haul?
No.
And then they lose Willie Adames, Devin Williams, and Frankie Montas. And so you're thinking to yourself, the Brewers got to suck this year, but they're still not far out of it. They're in third place barely. If they could have gotten the sweep, they would have had some momentum going into Milwaukee, right?
Sure would have.
And so it's been a rocky start for the Brewers in 2025. The injury bug has decimated their starting pitchers. Nestor Cortez and DL Hall are on the 60-day IL. Aaron Ashby's on the 50-day IL. Outfielders, Garrett Mitchell has an oblique injury, and Blake Perkins has a right shin fracture. The Brewers were so desperate for starting pitcher, they signed Jose Quintana in the beginning of March, and in April traded a top 10 prospect to Boston for pitcher Quinn Priester, who we're going to see coming up. The Brewers were able to get off to a good start after a rough opening series against the Yankees. You remember the torpedo bat controversy. But lately they've been struggling. They lost a 4-game series to the Giants in San Fran. They lost 2 of 3 to the Cardinals in St. Louis. But luckily they got to play the White Sox on the south side, where they took 2 out of 3, dropping today's game at 35th and Shields. The Brewers are 9-4 at home, but Dustin, they are 7-12 on the road. So a much better team up north than they are when they got to travel. They have a record of 11-12 against teams above 500, such as the Cubs. They are 4-6 in their last 10 games, and the Sox just snapped a 3-game winning streak that they were on. So thanks, White Sox. I don't like to thank them, but I guess we're going to have to for that one.
Have to thank them for that one. All right, Crawly, it is time for the tail of the tape.
All right, here we go. Batting average, Cubs lead that 264. That's the second best in baseball. The Brewers are 15th with 244. Slug, the Cubs are slugging 457, third best in baseball, while the Brewers are slugging 368, which is 23rd. Runners in scoring position, the Cubs are 283, which is second in baseball, while the Brewers are 268. So the Brewers' offense isn't that good, but like the Brewers usually do, they get hits when it counts.
When it counts, right? And that's listen, one of the biggest improvements, obviously, this Cubs team is that stat, runners in scoring position. This is a stat that, gosh, since we've been doing this podcast, has been awful, and that's probably being nice.
But when you look at the Cubs, they're good everywhere offensively. They're good in batting average, slug, runners in scoring position. With the Brewers, they're middle of the road in average. They're bottom third in slug, but they're in the top third for runners in scoring position. So they just have that weird Brewer magic.
Yep.
Cubs have better pitching. Their starters ERA is 3.59. That's 7th in baseball, while the Brewers at 3.71. That's 11th. Relievers, they're pretty even. The Brewers have the edge on that. They are 22nd in baseball with a 138 whip, while the Cubs are 23rd at a 144 whip, so right behind them. Fielding, the Cubs are second in baseball with a 15 DRS, while the Brewers are 14th with a 5 DRS. But this, Dustin, is going to be an
interesting stat, right?
Yeah.
This is interesting.
It's a battle of the base stealers. The Cubs are first in baseball with stolen bases. When was the last time that happened? I need to contact Chris Kamka. Yeah. But they are first with 44 stolen bases, but the Brewers are right behind them with 40. So this is going to, depending on how the pitching goes, you are going to see a lot of base running in this series.
All right, game number 1 be Friday night, tomorrow night. We're doing this Thursday afternoon. It's a 7:10 first pitch, Apple TV. So the Score is your only local broadcast. I got to say, though, Crawly, we've talked about this before. Well, Apple TV has an unbelievable picture.
So most TVs that are 4K, but most broadcasts aren't.
That's the key. See, that's the key.
And so so to see Apple TV, it is literally like your eyes just open up. You're like, holy cow. It's like
going from like regular TV. You ever like put any sporting event on like non-HD TV nowadays?
Right. Or when you watch it, like the throwback games, when you watch them on Marquee, when they have the throwback games.
Yeah,
like
even HD can't do much to the throwback game. Right.
Right. And so when you watch Apple TV, it's just mind blowing. The first starter is going to be Ben Brown versus right-hander Quinn Preister. Ben Brown is 202 with a 6.04 ERA in 6 games, 5 of those starts with 31 strikeouts and 25 in the third innings. Dustin, it feels like forever since that great start he had in Los Angeles when Ben pitched 6 scoreless innings against the Dodgers. Since then, he gave up 1 run on 3 hits in 4 innings only against the D-backs, but had to throw 100 pitches to get through 4 innings. His last start against the Phillies was even worse. He didn't make it out of the 4th inning, giving up 6 runs and throwing pitches. Craig Counsell called out Ben's inability to give them length. You had Tommy Hotovy on the Mully and Haw show. Here's what Tommy had to say about Ben Brown.
I think the reason Craig said it is because that's what Ben is thinking to himself too. Yep. I think Ben knows that he has the ability to be an elite starting pitcher in this league. He knows that he's continuing to work on things and get better. He knows, that when he's right, he can go through one of the most dominant lineups in the game, in Dodger Stadium on the road. So, for him, there's going to be ups and downs. There's going to be great games with a bad inning. There's going to be a rough start that he's going to have to work through some things. There's going to be a start where he goes out there and just absolutely rolls for 6 innings. And I think for Ben, it's learning how to stay, central and stay even through all those moments, because when this game's cruel, you could be rolling like you did last game for 3 innings and then give up 5 singles, on the ground and hit a guy and completely changes the game in the outing. So I think Ben knows that. And the one thing for Ben too, like he's continuing to work to grow his arsenal, to work on new pitches, to find ways to continue to improve. And I think back to last year, had he had the last 3 months of the season to do a lot of the things that he was wanting to work on last year, like he might be in a very different place right now. And I think is extremely important for us with Ben to get him back to that initial point of success, trusting his 2 best pitches and get on a nice little steady run here of building up innings and workload to then continue to work on the things that he wants to work on. It was tough last year in the offseason, not having kind of the full ramp up, the ability to work on all the things from a pitch package standpoint that he wanted to work on. But we're going to see that evolve as this year goes on. I'm 100% confident in that, and I'm confident in the work that he's putting in. So, it's going to be fun. The Ben Brown watch this year is going to be fun to see when he does start to break out some of those newer pitches in his arsenal when that time comes, as he continues to gain more confidence over the year.
I thought that was a really interesting clip, and it's always great when Tommy's on the Mully and Haw show on 670 The Score. Here's the thing with Brown. What Tommy was talking about is he lost half a season last year, so he should be further along in his development. And unfortunately, the Cubs need him to start now. You know what I mean? Right. That's just how it is. But if he would have had that time, everybody knows Ben Brown has 2 very, very awesome pitches, right? He's got an awesome fastball and he's got an awesome knuckle curve, but that's it, right? He doesn't really have a third pitch that he throws with any confidence. And that's the problem. That's for a reliever, it's a lot easier to get through with two awesome plus pitches. For a starter, it's much more difficult. Just to give you an idea, Dustin, he throws his 4-seamer 57% of the time, the knuckle curve 40%. He has a changeup. He's only thrown it 2% of the time. And so he's not confident with it yet. And the gap, and you can see the issue. The issue he has is his fastball is a 95-mile-per-hour fastball, which is higher than league average, but his changeup's 91. There's only 4 degrees difference. He's got to learn to throw that changeup where there's separation between the two, but it looks similar, right? So
I
we'll
agree.
see.
I
We'll
mean,
see
this
what
is a
happens.
this is a big start for him. This is
Yeah.
a big. You want to see like a bounce back, right?
He's only faced the Brewers once in his career. He pitched 7 no-hit innings, giving up 2 walks and striking out 10 in Milwaukee. That's one of those elite starts that Tommy Hodavy's talking about.
More of that, please.
Nobody on the Brewers has to hit against him in a small sample size. So let's do it, right? The Brewers will go with Quentin Preister, the pride and joy of Cary Grove High School. It's a first-round pick of the Pirates in 2019 before being traded to Boston last season and then traded to the Brewers after the Nestor Cortez injury. Priester's a 6'3" righty who is 1-0 in 4 games, started with a 3.79 ERA, 13 strikeouts in 19 innings pitched. In his 4 starts, he hasn't gone deeper than 5 innings. He pitched 5 shutout innings against Detroit on April 15th, gave up 2 runs in 4 innings against the Giants. But in his last start in St. Louis, he gave up 5 runs on 8 hits in 5 innings of work. The Cubs have seen Priester once in his career when he got a start with the Red Sox last season. He gave up 4 runs on 5 hits in 6 innings when they played him in Boston. The Cubs haven't seen much of him, but Seiya was 2 for 3 with the home run and John Birdie 2 for 2 with the walk. Quinn throws.
So I wonder if Birdie will be back in there on Friday night.
Oh, yeah. Quinn throws a sinker, a slider, and a cutter. He's an extreme ground ball pitcher. The issue with Preister, though, is with walks, right? He's walked 12 batters in 19 innings of work. So in this first game, Dustin, you have 2 guys that have control issues and 2 teams that like to run. Don't put anyone on a base if you're either team because any free pass is going to end up being a double.
Yeah, great point. All right, game number 2, man. This is a fun, nostalgic pitching matchup.
Jameson Taillon versus left-handed pitcher Jose Quintana. JMO has a record of 1-1 with a 4.01 ERA with 26 strikeouts and 33 2/3 innings. You might say 4.01 ERA, meh, but it's high because of that first start in Arizona when he gave up 6 runs in 4 1/3 innings. Since then, he's been the model of consistency. He's allowed 3 runs or fewer in 5 straight starts since April 2nd, posting a 2.76 ERA in April. In his last start against Phillies, I thought it was the best of the season. He pitched 7 innings, gave up 1 run on 5 hits, no walks and 2 Ks in a game that the Cubs lost in extras. The problem, JMO is 4-9 lifetime against the Brewers with a 3.13 ERA in 18 games, 17 as a starter, and he's 1-3 at Miller Park with a 4.17 ERA. There's a few Brewers that hit Taillon well. Christian Yelich is 10 for 30 with 2 home runs. The youngster Jackson Churio 4 for 7 and Sal Frelick 4 for 12. But JMO has the edge over Bryce Terang, who is 3 for 14, and William Contreras is only 2 for 16 against JMO.
So
now,
this is going to be this is fun, man. This is a good pitching. I love this idea.
How about this? Jose Quintana is a 36-year-old lefty that seems to have found the fountain of youth. He's been phenomenal for Milwaukee, a 4-0 record in 4 games with a sparkling 1.14 ERA with 15 strikeouts in 23 2/3 innings pitch. Another one of those Milwaukee front office miracles. In his first game for Milwaukee in Arizona, he pitched 7 shutout innings. In his next 3 starts, all against good hitting teams, Detroit, San Francisco, St. Louis, he's gone at least 5 innings in every start and given up only 1 run to each of those 3 teams. Now, Quintana's 1-4 lifetime against the Cubs in 9 starts, but he only has a 2.80 ERA. The one thing to keep in mind, and we brought this stat up earlier from Marquis, is that the Cubs hit lefties well this year. They're 3rd in batting average, 2nd in OBP, and 2nd in slug, and tied for 3rd. And that was before they hit the heck out of the lefty Heaney in Pittsburgh. So it's even better. So not a lot of Cubs hitters have seen Quintana. Nico and Dansby 3 for 10, Happ 2 for 8, and Justin Turner 6 for 22. Quintana is not a strikeout pitcher either. He's a ground ball pitcher that uses a sinker to get those ground ball outs and double plays along with that changeup and curveball. So a classic lefty junk baller that hopefully will not give the Cubs fits.
So those first 2 games are evening games. Then we finally get a day game Sunday afternoon, and we get Shota Imanaga, Freddie Peralta, kind of a ace versus ace, if you will, for both squads.
I'll be at that game.
Oh, no.
I am heading north. I always like to do a little tailgating in Milwaukee. So maybe watch out on Marquee. Maybe you'll see me on there. Who knows? But Shota is 3-1 with the 2.77 ERA and 7 games started with 30 strikeouts and 39 innings pitched. Shota's been okay this season, but he had a couple of issues. The first has been the long ball. He gave up 7 home runs in 5 games in April. The only game he didn't was this last one in Pittsburgh. The other has been how long he's gone in games. In his last 4 starts, he's only gotten out of the 5th inning one time, Dustin. With Steele down, the Cubs need Shota to keep the ball in the park and be able to go 6 or 7 innings.
Yeah, they need to lengthen him out. Yeah.
In Shota's last start against Pittsburgh, he looked better. 5 shutout innings, gave up 6 hits. He walked up 1, striking out 3 before the leg cramps. And he got in the, facing the first batter in the 6th. But now because teams only play their division rivals 13 times a season, Shota, Dustin, get this, he's only faced the Brewers once in Milwaukee last season, and it was a disaster. Do you remember this one?
I do.
They gave him that extra rest that they thought would be helpful. When he came back, he got ambushed.
Start, yeah. Mm-hmm. Again, right? They skipped the start against the Cardinals, right?
Yep.
I think something else I got all wound up about. Yep.
He got ambushed. He gave up 7 earned runs, 8 hits, 2 home runs, and 4 in the 3rd innings. His worst start probably of the season. But no one on the Brewers has more than 3 at-bats against them. Christian Yelich and Joey Ortiz are 2 for 3, while William Contreras is 0 for 3. The Cubs are going up against Freddie Peralta, the ace of the Brewers staff, with a record of 3-2 and a 2.52 ERA in 7 games started. In the start on April 18th against the Athletics, he pitched 5 shutout innings, struggled on April 23rd in San Fran, where he gave up 3 runs in 5 innings, but bounced back against the White Sox on Tuesday night. He had a rough start. He gave up 2 home runs, but then he only gave up 1 more hit after that. He gave up 2 solo home runs, and he went 6 innings and picked up the win. But Dustin, very similar to Shota Imanaga, Freddie has been having trouble going deep in games, and he gives up a good amount of walks. He's had 13 walks and 34 in the 3rd innings. But the problem for the Cubs is Freddie's dominated him during the career. He has a 6-2 record with a 3.16 ERA in 18 games, 13 of those starts. As a team, the Cubs slash 171, 271, 342 against Peralta. Nico Horner is 5 for 21. Dansby 0 for 15. Suzuki is 2 for 14, and Ian Happ 2 for 26. Freddie has a fastball that averages 94.9 on the gun and a changeup and a curve that both have great run to it, but he does walk people. But
well, I guess they better focus in on the walks because those numbers do not sit very well. All right, for the hot and the not, we can get through this quickly with the Cubs. Half the team's really hot. The other half, you're right, Crawly, the other half is not. And I think anybody even remotely listening to this podcast know who we're talking about. So let's move over to the Brewers. You probably haven't seen a whole lot of them. And of course, William Contreras is still hot.
Yes, sir. Jackson Chury, though, is they gave that youngster a big contract.
He's living up to it. He's living up.
He's 9 for his last 24 with 2 doubles, a homer, and 4 RBI, slashing 375, 375, 625. William Contreras always loves hitting against the Cubs. 6 for his last 18 with 3 RBI, slashing 333, 500, 333. And the other youngster, Sal Frelick, is 5 for his last 17 with 2 RBIs. Now, on the not list, their second baseman, Bryce Terang, is 2 for his last 16. He's slashing 125, 263, 125. Also struggling a little bit, Christian Yelich. Not that bad, though. He's 5 for his last 21 with 3 RBI, slashing 238, 333, 238.
Prediction time. I will go first. I say 2 out of 3. I'm not feeling great about Sunday, though, because of the offense. But let's work some walks. I'm hoping Ben Brown can bounce back. And I'm hoping that Wrigley Field North is rocking with Cub fans like yourself, Crawly.
Yeah, the pitching matchups are really interesting. You ever see that Spider-Man meme where everyone's pointing at the other Spider-Man?
Right.
I feel like all of these pitchers are have similar qualities to them. And so it's almost to me like a coin toss. Hopefully the Cubs, like I said, you can't have half your team being cold and one of those guys being named Justin Tucker. So I feel like they still, the 3 solo home runs really turn things around, but you got to get Michael Busch, PCA, and Kyle Tucker going. If those 3 guys get going, I like the Cubs' chances. I'll still say the Cubs take 2 out of 3 Friday, Saturday, and lose Sunday.
All right, well, we're simpatico. That's a wrap. Don't forget to listen, download, review, and subscribe to the Fly the W podcast. You got any questions? You got any concerns? Well, we got answers. Email us, crawleysclubhouse@gmail.com, and continue to watch, continue to subscribe. Crawly's Clubhouse is on the YouTube channel. Crawly, enjoy the trip north of the Cheddar Curtain, and we will talk early next week.
Yep, and if you see me out there, please stop by and say hello. I'm excited about it. Always a good rivalry. All we can say is, go Cubs!
It's all over.